What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another Beta Memoirs and another interesting day. We've opened up down quite a bit today. We went through the SPX rollover last week. We've been dealing with inflation data, although we've talked about this many different times. The inflation data really isn't that big of a deal from this point, even when they decide when to taper. I think even at that point, it's not a big deal. People are aware of the fact that the rates will not raise until some point next year. A lot of stuff is pointing in a very downward direction. So being said, there is not going to be any rate changes from this point. But we do have the FOMC starting tomorrow and on Wednesday. What really matters is Wednesday when Powell speaks. Powell actually has another speaking engagement on Friday as well, although I believe it is pre-recorded. So I don't think the dramatic will really matter that much there. But Wednesday, I think we're going to get some temporary movement, probably even some temporary stalling when Powell comes on. Again, I don't think it's going to hold as much weight up until this point because of the pandemic and everything. The only reason a lot of these meetings have held as much weight as they have been is because of the supply issues that have essentially drawn from the pandemic, causing inflation or transitory inflation, however you see it. But from this point, Evergrande is essentially taking the spotlight. And the whole crisis over there, they technically have the debts on bonds are due on Thursday that they have to pay. And so this essentially is becoming a global financial market crisis. We needed something to change, right? Everything we've been getting the same story, song and dance about inflation. They've essentially beat that to a pulp, and it wasn't doing anything more. The market was barely going down. We have SPX rollover. We have a little bit of the selling, but we really start to see what this essentially potential global financial market crisis is doing to the market, because they don't know directly how it could tie to any of the U.S. market. Many people have come on and said that it really doesn't matter. It doesn't really affect the U.S. market. But I think we are seeing different Chinese stocks, essentially, and BABA and everything else. But we've seen it today. We saw a gap down, and then we start some massive selling to this point. Will this continue on? It really depends on if that debt essentially can be paid on Thursday. If that debt cannot be paid on Thursday, it could be some major issues. And we won't really find out what those issues are until after the fact. Even if they don't pay it, whatever the case is, ultimately that is what's going on. Yes, we do have FOMC this week. Coming into this week before the Evergrande thing, I don't really think that it was going to have that dramatic of an impact. So being said, again, I think it's just a small speed bump. But now we have something with greater potential, greater risk, greater uncertainty. And they're essentially, people have been talking about it being just as bad as 2008 in that crisis that we had. But I don't think it's going to escalate that in our U.S. markets in that fashion as bad, because of the fact that we don't have, it's not so closely correlated to the U.S. markets. So being said, again, it really just depends. Maybe some other banks are affected in some way, shape, or form. We'll find out. Ultimately, understand this is why I don't do watch lists all the time. A lot of my trades have been intraday, or so some smaller overnights. It really just depends, and it depends on how we open up. And so, being said, even tomorrow, yes, the Fed starts. Yes, we get data. And I think, again, all of that is just irrelevant. There was just small reasons to sell. At this point, we have a larger reason to possibly sell. That one good sign, though, towards the end of the day, is we didn't even see a bounce essentially all day to that last candle. We broke a lot of major support, which is important because, let me actually take the study off of here. It's easier to see this on the daily without the study on here. But we break in major support, we bounced, we're going to get a retest of this 50 at the 44.18, in my opinion. And then we'll do a little bit more selling. How much and how heavy, I guess it really just depends on this Evergrande and see where it goes. And if they can't pay the debt, what that leads to is ultimately what's going to happen. But the market, again, showed a lot of promise towards the end of the day with the fact that it bounced. We might see a gap up overnight, only again to hit the 50 EMA and get ready to sell again. At this point, I'm essentially looking at shorting pumps in the morning because that's essentially what it is. Even today, I got kind of caught in this a little bit because we didn't even hardly pump up. A lot of stuff started turning this morning. We opened the gate and essentially just dropped out of the gate, and then we did pump a little bit. We actually looked like we were going to turn this morning, but then a lot of stuff flipped about an hour in, and then we just started selling for the rest of the day, and then we had a little pump candle towards the end of the day. Again, retesting. Again, I think this is all just lining up to October. We needed a reason to sell heavy, and we're finding a reason to do that. But ultimately, we want to just make sure that what happens on Thursday when that essentially debt is due, if that will really determine on how dramatic of an impact it is. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's nothing at all. And tomorrow we gap up and we just continue to run. But now the problem is now we broke below strong support, and so that's what I'm talking about. QQQ hit strong support, bouncing up. We'll definitely have to see how this plays out. A lot of FANG has really been. FANG is for the most part has been holding. If you look at your Tesla finally broke today. That was kind of concerning because that was one of the ones that we're holding. We still have the 50 at 706, which we did have a bounce off that before. We could do a possible retest of that. As long as we hold above that, I think we're good. We could even possibly go lower. I think we could even go down to this 670 mark and still be pretty close to that 670 mark. And still be bullish on Tesla. Again, I foresee this whole thing being bullish through the span, even through this October period. Yes, it's a very volatile period that we're in right now, going into October, essentially setting up for the next earnings run. So yes, I do expect a lot of volatility. I do expect selling. If this crisis gets out of hand, is something I'm talking about that we have to pay attention to and see if it is going to take it down, because I'm sure you'll all hear that the market's going to crash and this and that, and we've heard that for months, and yet the market continues to go up. None of this stuff is really having a dramatic impact. I think we will have a major correction next year at some point. At this point, I don't think it's going to happen. Is this going to be what takes us? It possibly could. So this is why I don't have a watch list. This is also why I say you need to manage risk or possibly even just sit out. For me, everything has been intraday, and I've tried to be as patient as I can until I see something before I even take a position. So Tesla holding. Google was actually holding very well. It did hit right off the 50 and held, so that was very positive. This could actually probably run back up for a retest at 28.27 if we do not gap up tomorrow again, or possibly look at puts with a tight stop. Everything that you essentially do, you wait till it hits lines and you keep very tight stops on it or keep tight watch on it if it is a option. But ultimately you realize that's essentially where we're at right now, and essentially the way I've been playing over the past the past couple of weeks since we've done a lot of sideways action. UPST still showing strength. I would really like a retest of the 20 back down here at the 254 mark. If we could get that, that'd be great. We could possibly even create a head and shoulders if it does tag and hold above this. So we have to see how that plays out. Apple just destroyed a lot of major support, which is not good. So I could actually see this coming back down to at least the 138 mark. If it breaks down below that, then you have essentially the 128 mark. But we do have the 200 daily at this 134 mark. So I don't think I think everything, especially big tech, is going to hold your 200 EMA for the most part. Again, there's nothing that's 100% in this game, so just be mindful of that. But I do believe everything, especially big tech, so if it has strong fundamentals and all that jazz, what I believe is we're going to hold that 200, and so we'll start to see what happens there. Facebook, I actually took a position in this when I hit the zone. It was a good zone. We got a nice bounce out of it. I don't think it's going to hold. I think we're going to retest the 50, then try to come back down, at least to the 340 mark around there before we see a bounce in Facebook back to the upside and start getting bullish again on it. Roblox has definitely struggled. It's just been in this, it's been chopping around so much between this $80 mark, but it really hasn't moved. Planter finally got some selling, did a retest of the 20. Want to see if this holds. Again, I think if this starts getting carried away, we could see some more selling. We do need some more selling. I think it's very much possible going into that way. We kind of have some headroom a little bit going into the next earnings run. So Amazon actually broke a lot today. I wanted to grab this wick today, the 200. It actually tested the 200 today. Came close to it, and this is why I talk about the 200. A lot of times it won't tag exactly the 200, but it'll get pretty close, and today it sure did, and it bounced straight out of there. I didn't miss this because this was obviously towards the end of the day. Shop holding, we want to see where this holds tomorrow. I think this can actually probably crater and come back down to this, at least the 1350. So we want to see where that goes tomorrow as well. I think the only other one I'm really watching, I want to keep an eye on now, see if it holds a 20 on the daily. If it breaks below this, then look for that 50 support. Major price targets on now and Amazon. And again, we continue to sell off, so that's something to keep in mind. Kind of like foreshadowing what is about ready to happen. So that's anytime we have events like this, always look if there's a major price target upgrade and nothing happens and the stock is still selling from that point, there's something bigger in the mix that is about ready to happen. So I know this video is getting pretty long. That's pretty much what I got for you guys. Again, be very mindful of everything going on. If you need to sit out, sit out. Be patient. Ultimately, wait till your lines, solid daily support lines or solid zones, are the only ones I am playing and trying to avoid any kind of no man's land, because that's where you're going to get chopped up, and that's where essentially you could potentially lose a lot. Manage risk, play light until things start to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, just don't play anything at all. Just wait until this, especially with what's going on with this crisis, until this is alleviated or there's some kind of result from this. Then you'll get direction. Then you know when you should start thinking about possibly getting in. So if you made it this far, remember to hit the like button. Until next time, I'll see you guys.